The Orioles lost an absolute stinker in Seattle on Wednesday afternoon, but it may make them evaluate another question even further, and that is, do the O's have enough in the starting rotation right now? And if not, which reinforcements may be able to come up and help this team in the near future? I'll try to answer that question on today's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Thursday, June 30th, 2022, and welcome back in to the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we're going to start by recapping an Orioles loss as they dropped Game 3 of the series to the Mariners 9-3 on Wednesday afternoon in Seattle and dropped 2 out of 3 in the series after winning Game 1. I'll get you the 5 things you need to know from that one. Then we'll take a look at the O's starting rotation, specifically at, well, who's going to come help this rotation at this point? Because there are definitely some holes in the 5-man group the Orioles are putting out right now. So I'll look at guys who could return to this rotation at some point this year, and also some new names who could help this rotation as the O's try and stay afloat and stay playing the kind of baseball they have played in the month of June. That's what coming up on this episode. We'll get right to it in a second. But first, just got to thank you for making Locked On Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. Locked On Orioles is free and available on all podcast listening platforms, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, a new episode on Apple Pods, on Spotify, on Google Play, wherever you listen. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and a review on those platforms, that really, really helps out the pod. Make sure to subscribe as well. And of course, if you're watching here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel, if you could hit that red subscribe button as well, that really, really helps us out here. Like, comment on the videos. Let me know your thoughts about who could join this rotation right there in the comments section here on the YouTube page. But again, for all the listeners, all the viewers, thank you so much for making Locked On Orioles your first listen of the day. And for your first listen today, let's start with Orioles and Mariners, Game 3 of a 3-game series, as the Mariners beat the O's 9-3 on Wednesday afternoon at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, as the M's take 2 out of 3 from the O's in the series. With the loss, the Orioles fall to 35-42 on the season, and they finish out the month of June with a 14-12 record. Again, their first winning month since August of 2017. So, it did end with back-to-back disappointing losses in Seattle, but overall a great month of baseball for the Baltimore Orioles. But I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from Wednesday's 9-3 loss to the Mariners. And the first thing you need to know, Jonathan Araúz, who I praised a little bit on Monday's episode after he had a nice opening weekend with the Orioles in Chicago, may have put together the worst single game performance I've seen from any Oriole so far in the 2022 season. Maybe anyone outside of Chris Owings, probably. Jonathan Araúz did that on Wednesday. Well, his day started by striking out with a runner at second and 2 down to end the top of the second in a 0-0 game. Then he proceeded to make back-to-back errors in the bottom of the second, which led to a 3-run inning for the Mariners that gave them a 3-0 lead in the second inning. And Araúz, at the end of the day, went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts as he got the start at third base on Wednesday. And the strikeouts came in key moments, including a couple of times with multiple base runners on to end innings. It was not a good day for him. And I think we all kind of assume that he's back to AAA once Ramon Urias returns from the injured list. We're hoping that's this weekend in Minnesota. Maybe it'll be early next week. But after making a strong case for himself to stay and maybe for Richie Martin to go back down in his first couple of games, that was rough on Wednesday. I mean, the first error he made in the second inning wasn't terrible. It didn't advance a runner or anything. But the second error he made, I mean, it was first and second with 1 out, slow grounder on a bunt, hit to third. He barehands it there's no play at first. You just eat it, put it in your pocket, bases loaded, one out. You try for the double play. Instead, he tries to chuck a ball to first. It's nowhere close to the bag or Trey Mancini. Goes into right field. Run comes around to score. Runners go to second and third with one out. And the inning just divulges from there as Seattle scores two more runs. And, Seattle probably gets at least one run, even if he puts the ball in his pocket. But maybe you can hold him to one in the inning instead of three, and maybe the game changed a little bit. Araúz just not a good day on Wednesday. Second thing you need to know in this one is that Austin Voth started for the Orioles once again, and what they've been kind of calling their quasi bullpen game. And I think the Orioles wanted to get him stretched out a little more, but he was only able to last 3 innings in this game. And although, at the end of the day, 3-run score, he only goes 3 innings, you're thinking that is not what the Orioles needed. I think because the Araúz errors and just how poorly that second inning went, he had a scoreless first, he had a scoreless third. I think it was a little better than the stat line shows. I mean, it's 3 innings, 3 runs, 1 earned on 4 hits, 2 Ks and a walk. Voth threw 62 pitches, allowed 4 hard hit balls in his 3 innings of work. He did get 7 whiffs on 30 swings, including 4 whiffs on his 4-seamer. Now, 30 swings on 62 pitches, that is a lot of swings. That means he was in the strike zone a whole lot, was probably throwing a lot of hittable pitches as well. But his curveball did its job, and the 4-seamer was not too bad. It was 93 to 95 on the day. I still like Austin Voth. I think he's got a chance to stick with this team. I think they'd like to continue to stretch him out, maybe closer to 4 or 5 innings if he's going to start. But I think at the end of the day, the Orioles would like him in more of a bullpen role. And we'll get to that in just a moment. Third thing you need to know from this one is that this was the welcome to the major leagues moment for Nick Vespi, who had this game just completely get away from him. Now for Vespi, after Voth pitched 3, entered in the 4th inning, bottom of the 4th, the O's had gotten a run in the top of the 4th on a Ryan Mountcastle RBI double, and it was a 3-1 game as Vespi entered. Nick Vespi recorded 1 out and allowed 6 runs on 6 hits with a home run, no Ks, no walks, and it only took 21 pitches to allow 6 runs and get 1 out. Now, to be fair to Vespi, he allowed 6 hits, but only 3 of them were on hard hit balls. There were a couple of kind of looping singles into left field. But his ERA shot up from sub 2 to 5.40 on the season. And Vespi hasn't pitched in too many high leverage spots since he's been in the big leagues with the Orioles. And this was clearly not high leverage. It was 3-1 in the 4th inning. But he's been good. He hasn't had any blow-up outings at all. But he's a rookie, and you're going to have a couple of blow-up outings, and this was the first one. Unfortunately, you like when guys are able to contain it. Maybe it's, 1 inning of work, you allow 3 runs. A third of an inning, 6 runs, you try to avoid that at all costs. That didn't happen for Vespi. It stinks. Hopefully it doesn't hurt his confidence, because I like his stuff. I like him as a middle reliever, and I don't think this means he'll get sent to AAA or anything. It's just something that happens to rookie relievers. And it was unfortunate because it just put the game out of reach with a 6-run 4th inning there. But the 4th thing you need to know from this game is that, at least on the offensive end, the O's had 3 runs. We mentioned the Mountcastle RBI double. Trey Mancini had a 2-run double in the 5th. That was the Orioles' other 2 runs. But really it was another great day for Cedric Mullins. Mullins went 2 for 3 with 2 singles, 2 walks, and a run scored. Now, he only had 1 hard hit ball on the day, but he got on base in 4 out of his 5 plate appearances. And for Cedric Mullins now, he is really starting to heat up, especially in June. He finishes June with a .303 batting average in the month. And in his final 7 games of the month, he goes 11 for 29. That's a .379 average with 5 multi-hit games in those final 7, including the 2 hits on Wednesday. Now, the power still is not there like we saw it in 2021. He's just not going to be a 30 home run guy again this season. But he's hitting for average. He's walking more. He's striking out less. And when he gets on base, he's continuing to steal bases. He could certainly get to 30 steals again. And he's looking like your kind of typical leadoff hitter that you like having there. And again, with a .303 average in the month of June, that's looking at least closer to the player we saw last year. And that can only bode well for the Orioles. And the 5th and final thing you need to know from the O's 9-3 loss to the Mariners is that, Wednesday's game may have been just a little bit of a wake-up call for the Orioles, just in terms of the starting pitching and the pitching situation in general. Because we knew the O's, thought best case scenario, maybe they can get 4 innings out of Austin Voth on Wednesday. They got 3. They've been getting around 3 as he's been starting. With Means injured, Grayrod injured, Bruce Zimmermann sent to AAA, all the different things that have happened. They've had to make do with this starting rotation. And part of making do has been Austin Voth, the waiver claim. And the bullpen games have gone well. I mean, they've won the last couple of Austin Voth starts. They've won a couple of different bullpen games this year in which Brian Baker has started games as well. But what happened on Wednesday shows the flip side of that coin. All you need is one reliever to have a bad day, and your bullpen game, poof, it's gone. And that's what happened. We talked about with Nick Vespi. Gets 1 out, allows 6 runs, just had a terrible day, his worst in the big leagues. And it didn't even matter that the rest of the pen was lights out. Brian Baker, 2 2/3 scoreless. Dylan Tate, a scoreless 8th inning. Jorge Lopez strikes out the side in a scoreless, Tate, a 7th inning. Jorge Lopez strikes out the side just to get some work in a scoreless 8th inning. And, Brian Baker was phenomenal getting 8 outs, trying to keep the O's in the game. And those guys all did great. And if Nick Vespi, instead of giving up 6 runs and getting 1 out, would have simply threw a scoreless 4th inning, the O's are right in this game. Maybe it's 3-3 late in the game. But Vespi has the blow up, and it's going to happen from time to time. You hope it's not as bad as 6 runs and 1 out. But those blowups are going to happen from time to time. You can't keep relying on the bullpen game. Even though the Orioles have had arguably a top 5 bullpen in baseball this year, you can't ask them to get that many outs every 5 days. And again, Voth, who was a starter for a long time with the Nationals, will be built up, and they hope he'll probably go 4 innings next time, and they can get him to at least being a 5-inning guy, similar to what Spencer Watkins kind of is right now. But you can't be rolling out with 2 of your starting pitchers knowing that max you're going to get 5 innings from them. That's Watkins and Voth right now, and even Tyler Wells. I mean, you can get 6 innings out of him, but you have another guy in Wells who your best starting pitcher, Tyler Wells, you're trying to limit his pitch count and his innings all year. So at some point, they're going to need some help in this rotation. And I think Wednesday's game definitely showed a piece of that. But speaking of that help, the question then becomes, with Means out and with Grayson Rodriguez out for a long amount of time, where is that help going to come from? Because the O's aren't going to trade for starters at the deadline. So who's going to come in and help the starting rotation? Well, I'm going to try to answer that question coming up here in just a second. But first, let's talk about LinkedIn Jobs. You know LinkedIn. It's a place where so many people go to find jobs, but also to post their jobs. And as the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. They've got simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and who you'd like to hire. And LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So the Orioles fall 9-3 to the Mariners on Wednesday and drop 2 out of 3 in the series in Seattle. And it probably opened their eyes up a little bit to the issue in the starting rotation. You can't be doing a bullpen game once every 5 days, because if one reliever blows up like Vespi did on Wednesday, it all starts to snowball on you. And so the question becomes, who is going to help this rotation? Because the O's cannot go through the rest of the season with these 5 guys pitching this little amount of innings. I mean, you basically have one guy who's really eating innings, and that's Jordan Lyles. Well, maybe you don't want to leave Dean Kramer out. He did throw 7 scoreless on Tuesday night, but still. So the question is, who's going to come help? And so I wanted to start with the guys who have been on the big league team already, are not there right now, but could come back to help the Orioles. And let's start with Bruce Zimmermann, trying to answer this question of who's going to help, because Bruce was sent down to AAA on June 16th. He had a string of horrendous starts. Even after his first 7 starts of the year, He had, an ERA just over 2. He was the O's ace by far the first 7 starts. The 6 starts after that were a disaster, and he was sent to AAA. He felt like he was tipping his pitches. He tried to change his delivery slightly, his set position. It got out of whack, and it even got worse when he changed it over those last 3 starts before going down to AAA, basically to give him more time to work on those changes in obviously a much lower stress environment in AAA baseball. And well, the start didn't go great because his first inning in AAA, he allowed 5 runs. He allowed doubles to the first 3 batters he faced. But in that same game, after giving up the 5 runs, he got 3 outs. He came back out and he threw 4 consecutive scoreless innings after that. In his first appearance, it was 5 runs on 7 hits and 5 innings with 7 Ks and 3 walks. Then he made his second start. That came Tuesday night for AAA Norfolk. And it was better. Did not have the blow-up inning. He goes 6 innings, allowing just 1 run on 3 hits, struck out 7 and walked 3. The changeup command was there much better. He was getting more whiffs on that pitch. The strikeouts were good. And here's an interesting thing, because for Bruce Zimmermann, in those 6 starts that were terrible, I believe he walked 2 guys in 6 starts. Like, he wasn't walking anybody. Now, he wasn't striking out anybody. He was striking out no more than 2 guys per game, but he wasn't walking anyone either. He was almost just throwing too many pitches down the middle, too many strikes. He's had 3 walks in each of these appearances of 5+ innings in AAA. It could almost be a good thing. You'd like to maybe get it down to 2 walks, but they weren't, crazy terrible walks. They were competitive walks where a guy worked a walk. And if he's pitching with command out of the strike zone, that's okay, because a lot of his problems was he was too down the middle with a lot of his stuff, and it was getting crushed. He gave up 15 home runs over the span of 6 starts. Nobody does that. Not even Dylan Bundy or David Hess back in the day with the Orioles. Nobody has that many home runs allowed in that few of starts. So with Bruce looking better, changeup was looking much better. Watched a solid amount kind of here and there of that start on Tuesday night. The command of the pitches looked better. He looked more comfortable with that new kind of altered delivery and set position. I don't think it's next time. I'd say they give him 1 to maybe 2 more AAA starts. But if things keep going well, it sets him up to probably return after the All-Star break. And I think this is the easiest solution. Zimmermann was good, really good at the beginning of this year. He was solid when he wasn't injured last year. And, he's been in the big league since the very end of 2020. He's a guy you can rely on once he's figured out this new set position and these new mechanics. They looked good in Norfolk Tuesday night. I think 1 to 2 more starts after the All-Star break, he comes up, replaces Austin Voth, and you're off and running again. Now, there's obviously other options, and there's other guys who are going to compete for that spot. And another guy is Matt Harvey, because we're getting closer and closer to Harvey being eligible to pitch in the big leagues again. Now, of course, the Orioles re-signed Matt Harvey to a minor league deal late in spring training, and we knew he wasn't going to be on the opening day roster. But then Major League Baseball finally handed out its suspension to Matt Harvey for the role that he played in, of course, the tragic death of Tyler Skaggs. Harvey got a 60-game suspension from Major League Baseball. The suspension was retroactive to April 29th. So he cannot pitch in either AAA or the big leagues until it's 60 games after April 29th. And roughly that time period is about Sunday or Monday. July 3rd or 4th is right around where that suspension will be up, and he can at least start pitching in AAA next Tuesday when the Tides start their next series. So he should be in AAA next week. Now, he made 1 start in Aberdeen. That was June 23rd, 6 scoreless innings with 4 strikeouts. And then he got moved up to Bowie, and he started in Bowie on Tuesday night. 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, but he did have 9 Ks and no walks, did allow 2 long balls in that game. And he may start for Bowie on Sunday. And if he doesn't, he'll probably start for Norfolk, if the suspension stuff is all good, next Tuesday. And so at that point, you start getting him into AAA hitters. And as long as he's not getting mashed and it doesn't look very bad, 2, 3, maybe 4 AAA starts for Matt Harvey. And we're looking at Matt in the big leagues in late July. I mean, we know what he was last year for the Orioles. 28 starts, a 6.27 ERA. He threw about 128 innings, about 7 Ks, 2.5 walks per 9. Wasn't anything special. Had a really good July, but other than that, was okay at best. I would say he had his best stretch at the beginning of the season. April, he was solid, and he was good in July. Every time else last year, he was getting hit around. But there was a stretch where he was kind of giving them 6 innings, 3 or 4 runs, and you take that. You would take that length at the very least, similar to Jordan Lyles. Matt Harvey can give you length. He can pitch deep into a game once he's fully built up. And the fact that he's already pitching, 5 and 6 innings in these 2 minor league starts is a really good sign. So if he gets, maybe 3 starts in AAA and things look good, late July, if you still need Matt Harvey, whether it's because Bruce Zimmermann is failing again in the big leagues, whether it's Spencer Watkins isn't pitching well, or the Voth thing isn't working out, or Dean Kramer's at a tough stretch, you get another injury or whatever it may be, Matt Harvey could certainly be another guy, after the All-Star break who could come up and really help the Orioles in that time. Now, there's a few other names who are on this list. Obviously, Alexander Wells, when he's healthy, could be one of them. We saw him pitch out of the bullpen a little bit early this year. Obviously, got some time with the Orioles last year. Wells went down with a UCL injury that at this point is not going to require Tommy John surgery. They're just trying to rest it and rehab it. They said 8 to 12 weeks when he went on the IL right at the end of April. So I would say he maybe starts to rehab in early August at best. So, he could be in the big leagues maybe by mid to late August at the earliest. I would say for Wells, it probably looks like a best case scenario. He's with the big league team throughout September, maybe. So that's down the road. And then you have some other guy, Denyi Reyes, who, 3 appearances, 1 start, 7 2/3 innings, 2 runs for the Orioles this year. But he's got a 6.91 ERA in 27 AAA innings. Hasn't gone great down there. And you've got guys like Logan Allen, who we've seen a little bit in the bigs, Cody Sedlock, who we saw once in the bigs, and of course, Mike Baumann, who's been mostly a reliever in the bigs this year, but has been a starter in the past. Those guys are all options as well who've been with the team. But I would say certainly we'll see Bruce Zimmermann and certainly we'll see Matt Harvey. Hopefully right after the All-Star break, both of them can kind of ease things for this team. And maybe, I think Harvey will need a little more time. But potentially, if Bruce Zimmermann has one more AAA start that's good, it'll probably come this Sunday. We could see him in Baltimore next week to kind of fill that void in the 5th spot in the rotation and try and get things back. Because, the rule of you have to spend 15 days in AAA when you're optioned as a pitcher, that time is up on Friday. So after Friday, he can come back up whenever. If he has one more good start, it could certainly be next week. But those were the guys who are have already been here at least for a cup of coffee or for much more, like Harvey and Zimmermann options. There's also options of guys who haven't been in the big leagues yet and could make their major league debut to try and help this Orioles starting pitching problem. And we'll get to which names those could be in just a second. But first, I wanted to talk about Sports Card Investor, one of our most exciting new sponsors. Welcome to the world of sports cards, reimagined. The Sports Card Investor app is the hobby's most powerful resource. Quickly check the value of your favorite cards, find great deals, and profit from the hobby you love. Available completely free in the Google Play and Apple App Stores, the Sports Card Investor app is a must-have for baseball fans. If you're into baseball cards, this is the app to get because it's free, obviously. You can browse over 600,000 cards from every sport with hundreds more added each week. Check the latest values of your favorite cards with 7-day charts, 30-day charts on the value. And here's my favorite part of the app. If you like to buy and sell cards, especially you're looking for the best deal, you can find the best prices on the app and you can buy directly through the app with their eBay deals feature. That's really the best part. It's your one-stop shop for everything that a card collector needs. So download the Sports Card Investor app today. Available for free in the Google Play and Apple App Stores, or go to sportscardinvestor.com/lockedon. And today's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by betonline.net, which is your number one source for your betting needs and sports info. Now, we are fully into baseball mode at this point. Major League Baseball That is running the show with, of course, the Stanley Cup Finals having ended. So you can get all your MLB news, all your MLB lines, odds, injury news, league reviews, anything you need. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, and it includes live betting. It's got esports. You can get live scores and more. You can also listen to podcasts. You can get news all season at betonline.net. And remember, it's not just Major League Baseball. All summer, MMA, boxing, and golf is going on every single weekend. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action at betonline.net, where the game starts. So the Baltimore Orioles, they're going to be looking for starting pitching. And we talked about, the best candidates like Bruce Zimmermann and Matt Harvey, who are going to come up and help this team hopefully sooner rather than later. But there's also guys who have not been to the big leagues yet who could help the Orioles solve this starting pitching issue. And obviously, you have to start with the biggest name who's healthy, and that is DL Hall, the Orioles' number 2 pitching prospect, who has now made 10 starts in AAA this season, but has not gone as well as the Orioles would have hoped. 10 starts for Hall in AAA this year, a 5.17 ERA. In 38 and a third innings, he's allowed 33 hits. Now, he struck out 59 batters, which is ridiculous, but he has walked 28 and allowed 5 home runs. So it's 13.9 Ks per 9. That is an elite number, but it's 6.6 walks per 9. That is not good at all from DL Hall. And especially his last 3 starts have been pretty rough. And his last start, which came on Sunday, was his worst of the season. He went just 3 and a third innings, allowing 7 runs on 6 hits with 2 strikeouts, 5 walks, and a home run allowed in that one at the AAA level. Now, we should see him pitch probably Friday or Saturday of this week to make his 11th AAA start. But here's the thing with Hall. The stuff looks good. The fastball's in the upper 90s. The slider is just destroying people with the break. And the changeup is solid enough. And the stuff looks good. The command is not where you want it. And that's been the issue with DL Hall. Just how long it's taking him to get through these starts. He's still struggling to finish 5 innings. He's only pitched 5 full innings in 1 of his 10 AAA starts. Most of them have fallen, 4, 4 and a third, 4 and 2/3. Only finished 5 innings 1 time. That was his longest start back in early June. So that's another issue because you're trying to fix this problem with somebody who can pitch deeper into the games, and that's not going to be Hall's role. Now, could you call up DL Hall right now and you piggyback him with Austin Voth? 3 innings from Voth, 3 innings from Hall, back end of a really good Orioles bullpen? Totally could do that right now. But I feel like the reason that hasn't been done by Michael Elias and the Orioles is you want the command to look a little better than 6.6 walks per 9. The stuff is there. 14 Ks per 9. It's awesome. When he strikes out guys, honestly, I think when DL Hall is on and striking guys out, he might be more fun to watch than Grayson Rodriguez. But the walks come in, the command issues come in at times, and it can be a tough watch because you see how good the stuff is. Just get it a little closer to the strike zone and you dominate. And when he is near the strike zone, in the strike zone, he does dominate. It's just that issue has become more and more of an issue his last few starts. If he can string together, even if they're 5 innings, if he can string together 2 starts where the walks go down, strikeouts are there, and the stuff looks good, we could see him after the All-Star break at some point. But if the starts look more like this, where, he's striking guys out, but he's also walking guys, and the pitch count is near 100, in the 4th or 5th inning, they're not going to call him up to be a starter. And I could totally see a situation where the Orioles call up Hall to be, a multi-inning reliever for the rest of this year, just to take some pressure off him, get him in the big leagues, get that stuff playing. That might be the best thing to do. And then you get to the offseason, you say, all right, you are still a starter to us. Let's work on that command in the offseason. Come to big league camp next year, competing for a starting rotation role and go from there. I would totally do that. But again, that doesn't do a great job of solving the starting rotation problem. So other than DL Hall, Grayson Rodriguez, if he does pitch in the big leagues this year, it's going to be September because of the injury. So he's kind of off the table for now. Chris Valamont is maybe an option. O's claimed him off waivers from Minnesota about a month or so back. Dominated Double-A with the Orioles when they put him there. 13 innings, 1 run, 18 Ks, 4 walks after he was walking everybody in the Twins system. Then he came to AAA, made his first AAA start on Saturday. 4 innings, 6 runs, 9 hits, 4 Ks, a walk, a hit batter, and a home run. You'd like to see, a handful of starts go better than that in AAA before you call it Valamont to the big leagues, because he had never pitched above AA, the twin system, for the Orioles claimed. That was his AAA debut on Saturday. But he's got, really devastating stuff. Good fastball, great breaking ball, drops off the table. But the command has been a real issue for him in his career. It was good in Bowie. It was still not bad in Norfolk. He just got hit. But he could certainly be an option moving forward. And then you got guys like Kevin Smith, who, got DFA'd off the 40-man this year because of early struggles. He's kind of pulled it together a little bit. He's got a 4.62 ERA in 39 innings. You've got Blaine Knight, who could eat some innings for you, but it's been rough for Blaine in AAA this year. 44 innings and a 6.70 ERA for the Orioles' former third-round pick in 2018, the right-hander Blaine Knight. So there are some options, but I do think at the end of the day, it's Bruce Zimmermann, hopefully soon, and then Matt Harvey. And you can at least have 2 guys in Bruce and in Harvey who have shown they can eat innings. They can pitch deep into games as well. And that could really, really help out this rotation. Because even if you lose a couple of those games where they pitch 6 or 7 innings, it could help down the road to win more close games if the bullpen is even more rested. Because the Orioles bullpen, they've pitched more innings than any other bullpen in baseball. And they've still been a top 5 bullpen. When you pitch that many innings, at some point, some guys are going to slip. And the O's are going to need guys like Harvey and Zimmermann to be there to help eat some innings along with Jordan Lyles when the bullpen inevitably starts to slip a little bit. Because even though all these guys have been great out of the pen, not many of them, if any of them, are proven at all over full seasons or, multiple seasons as relievers. So things aren't going to be as good. They're going to need some help from the starters. And that's kind of your list of who could come and bring some help to the Orioles. But that'll do it for today's episode. We will be back, of course, tomorrow for one more episode, a Friday pod. Until then, make sure to go check out Locked On MLB Prospects here on the Locked On Network, because the draft is coming up in a couple of weeks. And of course, we thank you for making Locked On Orioles your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. He's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow and the upcoming MLB draft, where the Orioles have the number 1 pick. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And after you listen to that, make sure to join us back here tomorrow for a Friday episode of Locked On Orioles, as we will preview the upcoming weekend series between the Orioles and the Twins and get you all the O's news and notes that you need here on the pod. That's coming up tomorrow. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.